Okay, hello. So I'm going to go over the slides for this week. And again, this is just one credit yoga class, so nothing too involved, but I'm just introducing what sun salutations are. So another word for sun salutation in Sanskrit is Suryanamaskara or Suryanamaskara, depending on a lot of times in Sanskrit and in India, people will drop the last A on a word. So asana, people will often say asan, or yoga, they'll call it yog. So Suryanamaskara or Suryanamaskar, you'll hear it both ways. And you'll see it written both ways because the translation into English sometimes goes based on what the person heard. Well, I guess it's not into English, but writing it down often comes from what someone heard another person pronounce. So it can be said or written Suryanamaskar or Suryanamaskara. Just like yoga could be yog or yoga. You'll see the A oftentimes dropped. Okay, so sun salutations. I found a really cool picture of a sun that National Geographic had posted. This is a practice, as I say in the video and a few other places here this week. It's a practice to acknowledge the sun and how important the sun is. Something that's been important to every living thing for all of time, but how often do we think about it? So in yoga, we take some time to give thanks to the sun. So it's a series of asanas, and they can be practiced quickly or slowly. It's the only practice in yoga that can really be considered an exercise because sun salutations can be done quickly. The asanas are set in a flow that can easily be done kind of quickly. So you'll see I do an example in the video of doing it somewhat quickly. And if you do it like this, you'll notice your heart rate goes up and your blood really gets flowing, just like if you were exercising. So basically, with these series of postures, there's some standing and some floor poses. There's downward dog, which you really probably have seen before. And the poses alternate between like putting pressure on certain organs, like in the digestive system, and extending and expanding certain things, such as your spine or the back of your legs, depending on the pose that you're in. You can also practice these asanas slowly, just as a chain of asana. And in the supplemental reading, you'll see they actually give advice for how long to hold each pose if you're going to practice it slowly. And, the challenge can be how slow can you go. So, for example, some of the poses they say for a beginner, you may only want to hold this forward bend Janubalasana for 45 seconds. But as you get better at it, you can hold it for 3 minutes. So imagine when you're doing this, holding each pose for 3 minutes, that would also be a big challenge and therefore like a strength test kind of and a focus test and balance as well. So again, yoga oftentimes challenges us in different ways, largely mentally. Like, can I be comfortable in this awkward position, for example, is one of the first things that you'll face. And similarly, like going slowly and encouraging someone to pay attention to the moment and hold still and breathe and be comfortable is not something that we're always doing in our daily life. So that in itself is something to mentally adjust to, and that's part of the yoga practice. I put a link here to the Yoga Point website, which again was the ashram that I learned at. They've got a lot of great educational material. This is their page with pictures of sun salutations. The person doing them is one of my teachers, Prashant. Prashant is his name. And he has since moved, I think, to Thailand, and he's running his own yoga training program. Oftentimes you'll see variations added to this series, and I show you a couple that I usually add. And if you look up sun salutations or you learn them from different yoga studios, they'll almost always be a little bit different depending where you learn them from, just making that note. I'm just teaching you the traditional series that I learned in India, and that's published in the resources that I was given. And this is like the basic backbone of sun salutations. And I tell you the Sanskrit names of the poses as well. And there's in the supplemental reading, there's a page that shows you the Sanskrit names of each pose. So traditionally, You'll do 12 rounds of these sun salutations, and it involves like stepping back with your left foot and then back up with your left foot after these poses, and then you lead with your right foot after that. So basically in yoga, asana, we oftentimes do a pose leading with the left and then the right, because you'll notice in each pose you're usually stretching or compressing one side of your body or the other. So for the sake of balance, again, remember in Hatha Yoga, we're always balancing our left and right energy channels, or our sun and moon energies. And of course, like, we would always want to stretch our left and our right side of our body evenly. So usually we do 12 rounds, and there's a mantra that goes along with this. So there's a mantra that basically says, like, these poses are for the sun, and they describe the sun in different ways. For example, to the shining one, to the one who induces activity, to the one who illuminates, to the one who moves quickly in the sky, to the imparter of strength, to the golden cosmic self. It's like this creative list of ways of describing the sun and how thankful that we are for it. So you'll hear the mantra. I posted another video of the mantra itself, but then in our practice video, I also show you how the mantra fits in with doing 12 rounds of sun salutations. I do that for you on the video. And here it is written out in Sanskrit, and you can see what each one means. So basically one verse goes with each round, like I said, helps you to focus and reach the goal of doing at least 12 sun salutations, or 14. It's actually 14 if you add this one, and then you do the whole thing together at the end. There's an attachment that there's like one more paragraph that goes with this, actually. I put an attachment on the webpage, on the class page. And yeah, you can click on the video to watch the chant and its meaning. And like, the other thing to add is, the more advanced yogi, I would not try this yet, but there are some certain auspicious numbers in yoga. So 108 is one of them. 54 is another. That's a division of 108. So sometimes people will do 108 sun salutations all in a row. For example, on a special occasion, to mark a special occasion. Which is definitely a form of exercise. And in that case, when you're doing many, many of them, you would move pretty quickly. And it would be a whole meditation and exercise in itself. Also, you'll notice in the video, I show you a version that involves holding the breath during plank pose. Holding the breath is called kumbhak. So that's a breath holding. In other versions, there are a few other spots where you may hold the breath, and you can read about that in the supplementary reading. I don't teach that one because it's a little bit more advanced, because you're holding the breath a little longer. But I'm pointing it out because sun salutations, therefore, use asana, mantra chanting, and pranayama, because when you start to incorporate holding the breath, then you're incorporating a new way of controlling the breath, not just in and out. So it can be considered a version of pranayama as well. While you're practicing, there's some things to remember. So keep your feet and your hands in the same position throughout. What I mean by that, and what the book means by that, is you'll notice on your mat, especially if you do like several rounds, and I remember this when I was starting to practice, you'll notice like you're going to perhaps end up in a completely different spot on your mat or in the room than you did when you first stepped back. By the time you step forward, you might find that you're like over here or way back on your mat or something. And that's pretty much based on your flexibility. Like, you may be able to step further back with one foot than the other, or you may just not be exactly paying attention to if you're in line or not. So do keep your feet and hands in the same position, meaning like try to line up where you are. Try to go forward and back on the mat throughout the practice. Every time you step up, ending the round, try to have your feet back where they started. That's the goal. Same with your hands. So you're doing some downward dog with your hands on the mat. That's kind of the point there, is keep yourself in line with where you're trying to be on the mat. The next thing to do is correlate each step with your breathing. So the practice involves 10 steps. And we start by breathing in while we stand up. We breathe out as we hang forward. And as you'll see so often in our asana practice, anytime we're compressing the body, especially our abdomen or our lungs, we're exhaling to allow the air to leave our lungs and allow ourselves to compress. And when we're stretching and expanding, we oftentimes inhale to give ourselves air in our lungs and to help our body expand and reach. So keeping that in mind, like the way that the breath can help you. You want to make sure that you correlate your breathing with the right steps throughout, and I do guide you on that through the video. Don't strain the breath, it says here. So that's something to think about. You want to pair your breathing, but don't force it, don't strain it. If you're holding a pose longer than your breath needs to be, just take a normal inhale and exhale before you move again. So benefits and contraindications. These are always good to point out. So as I said, it warms up the body for practicing asana. Can also be done in the beginning of the day when the sun comes up to prepare yourself for your day. Increases blood supply, lubricating your joints. If you practice it quickly, another benefit is that it can be used for exercise. And there are whole body benefits of this practice because it's a whole chain of asana, and you're receiving stretches and compressions in different areas. Some contraindications or precautions, okay? So if you have severe back or spinal problems, or high blood pressure or heart problems, abdominal surgery or serious abdominal problems, you should not practice this series. So again, this is an online class, so I'll just point out, be aware of your limitations and pay attention to your body as you start to practice. If something is hurting, that would be not what you want to do. You should not do anything that hurts you. If something is uncomfortable, only do a pose like to the extent that you feel like it's benefiting you and challenging you. But again, like we talked about last time, you don't want to force yourself or push yourself, because that's not what yoga is about. Yoga is about steady and comfortable, focused positions. And if you can get to that place, you will see that you can improve each time you practice. So with these weekly videos, hopefully you're doing them more than once per week so that you get some practice with each of the types of things that I'm showing you. Like last week we did preparatory movements. If you had done the video a few times, maybe you have those movements memorized. Similarly this week, I hope you find a chance to practice sun salutations more than once so you really get a handle on what they are and how they can be beneficial and how your body responds to them. And the more you do them, you'll start to notice certain aspects of them get easier, or certain aspects of your body may adapt to the practice. You may become a little bit more flexible or better at doing certain poses. And that's it. Okay. So again, I will post a short quiz for comprehension, and I'll put up a little link for you to show me a picture of your practice, or perhaps a video if you want. And I encourage you to ask a question or leave a comment so that I can give you some feedback on your practice. And don't forget to use the discussion boards so that your classmates can understand a little bit about your experience and discuss how the class is going. Okay, thank you. Enjoy. Oops, and that's our video for the week.